8 people are not crazy.
The official trailer for The Conjuring Last Rites is here, and with it, we are getting some hints at what Ed and Lorraine's harrowing next challenge will look like. And for the harrowing challenge of breaking down everything we learned in this new trailer, I'm joined by the only man for the job, director Michael Chaves. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Tom, how you doing? Good to see you.
I'm very well. Always love talking Conjuring verse with you, and we've got a lot to discuss. Let's get right into it. The big reveal of this trailer is that the demonic entity, or at least one of the ones in Last Rites, has a significant tie to Ed and Lorraine's backstory. It's the first demon they ever encountered, and they ran away from it. The previous trailer includes text that indicates that this is going to be the last case of Ed and Lorraine's. Is the intention to bring the story full circle in some way here?
Yeah, absolutely. We always imagine this as a final chapter to this series. This would bring a close to the Ed and Lorraine story.
In the trailer, we see at least 2 demonic entities. We see a man wielding an axe. We also see sort of a white-haired, crone-ish looking lady. We see very briefly in the first trailer as well, holding up that doll. I'd like to know whether or not those demons exist sort of on the same level of the Conjuring verse demon pecking order, because in these movies, there's sort of a hierarchy.
Yeah, I think with those in the movie, those are actually spirits, and they're based on real manifestations that we learned about in interviews with the Smurls and Ed and Lorraine Warren, just through their cases. Those were spirits, manifestations that the Smurls encountered that were connected to the haunting.
This movie, of course, as you just mentioned, it centers on a haunting that took place in Pittston, Pennsylvania, through the 70s and 80s. I'd like to know what was most appealing about adapting that case for The Conjuring Last Rites.
Credit where credit's due. This was James's brainchild from the beginning, setting the story in the Smurl investigation. What he said, one of the reasons that it was picked is it was one of the last cases that they took. So chronologically, we're staying true to that. And the other reason was that it was just a return to the haunted house experience, which is something that I was really excited about. I fell in love with the first Conjuring movie, as I think a lot of people did, because it was just this great old-fashioned haunted house story. And obviously, in the series and the spin-offs, we've explored some other things, but the idea that we'd be returning to that for the final chapter felt right, and it felt really exciting. Beyond that, it's one of their most intense cases. We worked with the Smurl sisters in developing the movie, even into production, getting their thoughts on things, and it was a really powerful experience. And I worked with them more than I had a chance to with Arnie Johnson on Conjuring 3. And hearing their story and hearing their perspective on it was really powerful and humbling, and it was scary in itself. And just the idea that these events are real, and they're real to the people that are involved in them, and they have a lasting impact on their lives. And there were so many people in that family that was affected in different ways by this haunting. It really left a mark on their family. And I think a lot of people, including myself, love horror movies because they're fun and they're scary, and just there's a thrill ride quality to it. I think what separates The Conjuring is that these are true stories, and they're based on real events. Obviously, we're taking liberties, as you probably will see over the course of the movie, but there's large chunks that are based on the real stories from these people. And to be able to work so closely with the sisters as we were developing the movie, I think it brings an authenticity to it. I think it definitely affected me in making it. I'm really proud of what we did, and I hope that I hope it really honors their experience.
And I have to imagine for you too, because I know how much the first Conjuring movie in particular means to you. I have to imagine that the idea that you would get to go back to a big family having to deal with this infestation must have been kind of appealing for you to be able to personally play in that sort of space.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I mean, one of the things that I love about the first Conjuring film was just, and I think that the core spirit of The Conjuring is that the Warrens are the heroes to people who they have no other option. No one else is listening to them. No one else believes them. They're just these good working class people that they don't have anywhere else to go. And that feels really powerful to me. And I think it really resonated. And the idea that we'd be doing that with this felt right. It felt like that's in the DNA of the Warrens.
Now, speaking of the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine's daughter, Judy Warren, who has been, a supporting character through a lot of this franchise, especially in Annabelle Comes Home, she seems to be really in the mix here, being targeted by some evil spirits as a means to maybe hurt Ed and Lorraine. We also see that Annabelle has come home as well, leading Judy up into the attic for a little bit of danger there. What can you tell us about Judy's role in this story and how Annabelle may factor in?
Well, I felt like it was important to bring back Annabelle. She is almost the mascot of The Conjuring. It would be a mistake to do this final movie without some element of Annabelle. So she definitely plays a part in here, even though she isn't our big bad. There's another entity that takes that role. With Judy, from the beginning, I thought this is a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity in just telling the story. It's a huge opportunity for a young actress. Mia Tomlinson absolutely knocked it out of the park. She did such an amazing job with this role. The opportunity is getting a new perspective on the Warrens. It's getting a new perspective on their family. And we get a little bit of it in Annabelle Comes Home, but I feel like this is a little bit more of a darker and more grounded take on what is that experience? What was the experience growing up, the daughter of these famous paranormal investigators? What was that experience like? What is it like to have an artifact room in your house? And does that leave some scars? Does that leave some unresolved issues just from a baseline? And we dig into that. And I think that's kind of what's so exciting about the movie, because I think in a way, in these series, usually the main characters they become superpowered and they almost become invincible, or they feel like they're invincible. And by bringing in a new character like this, and even though we've seen Judy through the years, we haven't seen her like this. And I think it just gives us a new perspective on the characters and a new way into the universe.
Another new character that we're going to be seeing here for the first time in these movies is Tony Spera, Judy Warren's real-life husband. We see Judy in a wedding dress at one point in the trailer, in that Hall of Mirrors sequence. Did you have any conversations with the real Judy and Tony going into Last Rites, knowing that they were going to be more of a central part of this story?
Absolutely. The real Tony and Judy are actually in the movie. They have a cameo. I spoke with both of them. I spoke a lot with Tony. Tony is basically, he's the guy. He's kind of taken the responsibility of the Warrens now that they've both passed. Having a character like Tony is, I always told Ben, I was like, you're like a breath of fresh air in this universe. You're coming in, you have a new perspective. You're not haunted by any of the demons or the trauma of everything that's been building up to this point. You can really come in with a fresh pair of eyes. You're also the perspective of a new audience member. We've shown this to so many people. We've shown it to fans of the series. We've shown it to people who've never seen the series before. And I actually think it's through Ben and his perspective that you get to be reintroduced into these characters and into the world. And I think that's really important. I think it's really fun to just have somebody come in and call things out and ask obvious questions about, why do you have an artifact room in your house? Have you ever seen an exorcism? What is an exorcism? Just like asking these obvious things. It's really refreshing, because in a way, this deep into a series, you kind of take these things for granted. It's like, oh, these things always happen. But he really gives us a new perspective.
It's a weird sort of like meet the parents moment. That's the most intense version of that I can sort of possibly imagine.
Exactly.
What was the hardest part about making The Conjuring Last Rites for you?
It actually wasn't a hard movie to make. We were blessed with a really, really good script that right off the bat was scary and intense and emotional, and it brought their stories to a close. We shot in London of all places. Obviously, the movie's set in Pennsylvania, but all movies are now shot in London or outside of the country for various reasons. What it gave us is the opportunity to work with just some amazing filmmakers, some amazing production designers, wardrobe designer. Everybody was really amazing. The hardest part of the movie, to answer that question, was actually those bittersweet moments when you saw people saying goodbye to each other, knowing that they were not going to be working together again. We bring back some characters from the past and from the series, and there was moments that felt like a reunion. There's also moments between Patrick and Vera where it was bittersweet. They've become friends through this series, and just even outside of the series, they're good family friends. And the fact that this chapter of their lives is closing was heartbreaking. It was sad to watch, and because it really, so much of our lives, we have our friends outside of work, we have our family, and then we have our work friends that account for such a large portion of our lives. And just watching them say goodbye, I think was a little heartbreaking.
Obviously, this journey started with James Wan and Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga back in 2013. I want to know if they've had a chance to see the movie yet and what they've thought of the cut.
They've all seen the movie, and they're all really proud of the work that everybody did.
Another person that has been with this series since the beginning is producer Peter Saffron, who's obviously very busy these days running DC Studios with James Gunn. I want to know, though, in your experience working with him and, seeing what he's built with the Conjuring verse, what do you see as his greatest strengths at developing a cinematic universe?
It's the job of a producer to put people together. It's to put people together, put the right people together and support them. And I think he is, in every project I see him involved in, he is so excellent at that. He's really good, not just a producer, but a manager in giving the freedom to let people be creative and work and take chances and do their very best. Beyond that, he has got great notes, and they're very sharp and they're very specific, and he probably only has a couple for like every movie that I work with him on, but they're almost always right. And on this one, he had two great notes, one in the beginning, one in the end, and they totally had a great impact on the film. It is funny because I probably can't tell either of them because it would reveal an important, impactful moment in the movie. But yeah, he's great notes. I think that's the secret. It also, I've learned a lot working with him. I think that giving room for other people around you to be creative and do their best and take authorship is part of it's just by saying less and letting them do more. And I've taken that lesson from him, and I try and do that with the people around me. Is just, that's part of the job, is you got to support everyone around you, whether it's the actors or the crew, and try and unleash them to do the very best work they can.
On the way out the door here, as the great prophets of our time, Semisonic, once said, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. The president of New Line has recently made some comments that suggest that a Conjuring Phase 2 is at least being hypothetically talked about or kicked around. When you think about everything that has been built in the Conjuring verse up to this point, what's one thing that you would want to see the future of the Conjuring verse sort of maintain course on, and what's a way in which you would like to see it evolve?
I think one of the big strengths of the Conjuring series has been the fact that they're based on true stories. And I think that that's always exciting. And I think it validates our hopes, our fears, our beliefs. And it's also just really exciting to watch the movie and then go online and then see what was real, what wasn't. I think that is a core concept, idea, tenet of the series that 100% whoever's lucky enough to be taking it on should definitely keep going with. The other thing is not something that it should change, but I think that one of the strengths also was just from the very first film, it was this love letter to classic horror, and had all of these great classic horror references in it. And it was just jam-packed into a modern thrill ride, but still all of its roots were worn on its sleeve. And I think that taking inspiration from previous movies is wonderful, and it's wonderful. It's what gives it its old-fashioned roots. I think that could still be a tradition. I think it's probably just updating the movies or just kind of taking it from another generation, because we're all getting older, and so the what was once an old movie is now even older. I don't know. Movies from the 90s. I don't know. I want to see Conjuring movies that take inspiration from movies of the 90s.
Yeah. Oh man, just kind of moving that sort of lens of looking back with the times. I do love that idea. Michael Chaves, that is all the time we have today. Thank you so much for joining us to chat about this new trailer for The Conjuring Last Rites, which is in theaters September 5th. Please do not miss it. And for everything else Conjuring, you are already in the right place. IGN.